Hey, welcome everybody to Pro Mindset Podcast. This is your host, Craig Doman. We have a special guest, a former college basketball player, a professional basketball player in Europe, basketball coach, author. This young lady wears lots of hats. Angela, welcome to the show today.
Hey, Craig. Thanks for inviting me on. Excited to chat with you.
Okay, Angela Lewis, by way of St. Louis, that rhymes, by the way. You played at SLU,
I,
St. Louis University. And you had to be a little bit of an offensive weapon because you had over 1,000 career points.
I did. I scored a number of points. I really enjoyed shooting. Like most, I really
The
enjoyed that.
question is, did you play
Worked
defense?
with- To me, I did. Ask some of my coaches. They may have some question marks there. But
Talk about the delicate
okay.
balance from a mindset standpoint of the prolific score and what are they thinking about on defense? Are they thinking about defense or are they thinking about offense? Because take a player like Caitlin Clark at Iowa. Okay. I feel like she was thinking about offense all the time. And she was coasting on defense. And then she gets to the WNBA and she gets abused on defense a little bit because she's not focusing on her defense. And for her to be a complete player, that's something where you got to be able to flip the switch and you cross the midcourt. So what was that like for you? And how do you see that as a coach with players?
It's rare that you have someone who fills up the bucket and is a great defender. There are some examples, but it is rare because I was thinking about scoring. But when you're a competitor, you also want to stop the other player. So I was never put on the best player to guard. Like we had other people whose responsibility and who were honestly much better at that. So I think when you're offensive minded, you're thinking about scoring, but you're not on the court if you can't play defense at all. You know, even someone like Caitlin Clark, if she didn't play defense at all, then you're not on the court. But rarely is your top offensive scorer on the
Okay, so I want to take advantage of your scouting evaluation eye. Who do you think's the best women's basketball player in the NCAA for this season? Who did you see as like the most talented, the most impactful?
Juju Watkins. I mean, Juju Watkins was amazing. Unfortunately, she got hurt, but she did it all. I mean, her skill is very rare, especially to be so young, only a sophomore. So I think Juju was top tier player.
So for someone like that who tore ACL in the tournament, she's probably going to miss all next year and then possibly go into the draft and be done with college unless the NIL money's so big, she's got to stay. I mean,
The NIL money is keeping a lot of young women there. It's
yeah.
keeping a lot of young women there. Not ACL 6 to 9 months, depending on the rehab. We might see her second half of next year toward conference play leading into the tournament. And she's only a sophomore, so she could have a couple of more years in college, depending on what she decides. But yeah, it's really hard to compete financially with NIL versus the WNBA at this point. It just makes sense for them to stay.
It's so funny that amateur basketball is paying more than pro basketball.
It is, yeah, it is very unexpected. Yet I think it's going to pushes it up. It pushes the salaries up. It pushes the marketing and the visibility. And people are really attached to colleges and universities in ways that we haven't quite seen yet at the professional level, specifically with the WNBA. But I think that's changing as people follow players who are getting now more marketing and visibility.
Okay, this is a shout out to the audience. You guys got to just sit tight. We are going to bounce around because this young lady's got so many different things that we can talk about. You played European basketball. I have a son that's playing a second season of European football. And what I've seen after the first year was a tremendous growth. You know, his awareness, his acceptance of different things is just, expanded tremendously. What was the biggest benefit for you in playing in Europe?
My family traveled to two places when I was growing up, Memphis, Tennessee, and Mount Bayou, Mississippi. And for me, the benefit was actually the world opening up to me and meeting people of different cultures and the level of understanding that the world is so much bigger than where we are and that sports unites people from all over the world. Like your son is going to have friends around the world forever. And it's beyond the game, but I think the game can facilitate that for so many of us. I'll never forget walking around Cologne, Germany. Like I've never seen a castle before. So on the court, you build connections, but the way the world just opens up to you as an athlete is the greatest gift that playing internationally, I think, gave me and so many others.
Well, you're absolutely right. My son played in Dresden, Germany last year and made friends from all over the place. And he just flew over last weekend to go to Hungary. And he had a 10-hour layover in London. And one of his teammates came and hung out with him, took him out to dinner. And you're exactly right. You just have friends in places that, if you don't leave home, your friends are all your high school friends. But when you
Exactly.
internationally, sometimes you even connect with people from other countries better than you connect with people who live down the street.
100%, because you're connecting over commonalities and you learn a lot about yourself when you're in places that are unfamiliar, and you grow in ways that you can't anticipate when you only stay where you're from. So I'm excited for your son to see how things unfold for him.
That's awesome. Okay, let's talk about, can you tap into your mind when you were playing and describe for us the most successful moment, the most joyful moment you had in your basketball career as a player, whether it was some type of scoring record or winning a championship or doing something no one expected you to do. What was like that mountaintop experience for you as an athlete?
Oh, I have two moments. I have two.
So let's do both.
The first moment, the first moment was my senior year. I remember scoring like 20 points in the first half, which is something I'd never done before. And I really felt like I was in the zone. We were playing a really good team. It was incredibly competitive. So that game, it was against TCU. I distinctly remember that game. And so that game was incredible. Everything kind of came together. And then signing the contract to play in Germany. No one in my family had traveled abroad. No one had gone abroad other than to be in the military. So to actually play professionally was a really, really big deal for me.
And to get paid to play.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so NIL did not exist when you were playing college basketball.
it did not. No, back when I was playing college basketball, the credit card companies could come on your campus and give you a t-shirt for a credit card. That's the closest we got to an NIL deal.
When did you graduate from college?
2004.
Okay, so I had this discussion with my wife last night. For all those athletes that participated in intercollegiate sports before 2016, because the House versus the NCAA settlement only covers athletes from 16 to 21, because after 21 they can get NIL. But what about the girls, the young men, and the young women from 2015 before? What are your thoughts on that?
My initial thoughts are, of course, it would be great if there was some type of compensation for us. I mean, we were on billboards, apparel was sold. There's some who generated a lot of revenue for universities. So if there was a way to count those before, that would have been great. However, anytime there's a revolution, like there's some people who are going to miss out, but so many more are going to benefit from it. And so I know we're all ecstatic to see so many of them be rewarded for all the foundation that so many of us have laid. But yeah, I think it would be really hard to quantify the amount unless they just gave everyone who played,
X
a
dollars.
certain amount.
Yeah, no, it's like both of my boys and most of their friends are getting, very low six figures for that time period. And it's a bonus because none of them made any money except their stipend. And football players, as you know, get probably paid more than anybody else, but their stipend still didn't, they couldn't go buy a car. They couldn't do things.
No,
For today, the money is just crazy.
it is. It's the Wild Wild West. There's no regulation as of yet. And the transfer portal really makes college athletics very much like professional. We have free agents literally every year going to different schools, and we've seen some pretty top name players go to schools that are seemingly unlikely, but we all know that they were probably offered a great deal.
Well, it's interesting how you can actually buy a team. if you're a school and you're like, we're tired of losing, we want to win, you can go buy talent and money talks, especially, when you have an opportunity to play college, let's say you're a young lady, you might go be an entrepreneur, you may be a medical doctor, you could be a lot of different things and make a lot of money, but not at 18, 19, 20, and 21, make six figures while you're going to college and getting a free education at the same time.
Exactly. It's a completely different world for them. And on the coaching side, I mean, they're constantly having to recruit because you don't know if the kid who committed and signed is going to be there 2 years from now. UCLA, all of their freshmen left. All four of the young women who were freshmen in the 2024 class this year, yeah, they all left. So it's definitely changed the way that coaches have to coach too, and the way that players even think about school.
Okay, so let's pretend you're a college basketball coach.
Hmm.
What would be your sales pitch to someone in the portal and why they should come to your university and play for you?
What university? What university,
Let's just say it's a good
Craig?
one. Let's just say it's a good one.
Okay, because I was just with some college coaches recently, based on where they are. If I'm where they are, I'm going to talk partnerships and deals, and of course, team culture. But I think kids and parents these days, care a lot about, is their player going to be taken care of, but also who has the money and how can they make sure they're set up for life. Even the young women who are getting paid now, they're the collectives that ensure that every player gets X amount of dollars, which is great. So we're going to talk money. We're also going to talk how they're going to play, like how much playing time they're going to get, where we see them in the program. And then for all the young women, they know that in college, like you said, they're not going to make that kind of money afterwards. So on the women's side, especially, we still have to talk about how we're preparing them for life in some way.
Absolutely. So you've written a few books. I want you to pick a book and share with us what's the mission of the book, what's the message of the book, what's the impact of the book, and how did that impact you before you wrote the book?
I'll stick with thinking about young women in college playing after. So the book is called Post Moves, The Female Athlete's Guide to Dominate Life After College. In that book, the mission was really to help young women understand that there are a lot of different paths because most aren't playing professionally. And I interviewed 15 women from various backgrounds who all play college sports, and all of them shared their journey to transitioning from college and how they managed leadership in life. So that book was really personal for me because the day of graduation, Craig, I looked in the mirror, had no idea what I was going to do other than wanting to play. And so that that's really important to me, that they know that you need mentors. The core of the book is about preparing young women with mentors to ensure that they have people they can lean on in the professional world to achieve their goals.
Did you have those people?
No, all the professionals that I knew were coaches and professors. That's it. I didn't know people who were operations executives for software companies. I didn't know people who were marketing executives. No, I didn't have. No, they were just coaches and professors. That was
Okay,
it.
so describe what you do now.
Now I'm head of operations for Speaker Hub. We help speakers get more opportunities to share their message and grow their businesses. My role specifically is to manage our team of 24 full-time employees who are from around the world. So I manage our meetings and make sure that we move whatever initiatives forward, whether it's events or marketing initiatives or managing our tech departments. So I help move initiatives forward. The best sports analogy is every team runs different plays to get to different goals. In business, every department has different workflows. So I make sure that our workflows get us to the goals that we're trying to accomplish.
From a mindset standpoint, whether it's being like a leader, being a captain, taking the shot, giving everything you got, giving the ball up and letting your teammates score, what are some of the sports experiences that you had that translate to your day-to-day in corporate America now?
You love the sports experiences, I would say first is listening as a leader, listening to your team and truly understanding what they need. So we have someone on our team named Maria, who's our head designer, that really needed more support in terms of her ability to lead. So we have meetings regularly, and I'm helping her to build out a team and really get clear about how we can get better on the design side. So it's listening is a big one. The other thing is being okay with making mistakes because that's a part of it. We, especially on our marketing team, we're testing stuff all the time. So to, you have to try just in sport and be able to keep bouncing back from that. So being willing to bounce back and then also listening, those things are really key.
How are you different from some of the people that didn't play sports in college, didn't play professional sports? What little extra do you feel like you have that maybe they don't have?
Well, that's a good one. I am 6'1". I've been this tall since I was 12 years old. So I felt really awkward growing up. And I know what it feels like to be really, really awkward and not very good at something and then become a professional. So I have a level of grit, grind, and patience because I've seen myself go from there to here. So I think that makes me a little different because I can chart that journey and I know what it feels like to stumble through mess ups, but know that getting to the top is still possible.
It's a process.
It is.
So it happens in sports where sometimes people believe what coaches told them they were, and they stay in there. They stay there the whole time. And other people expand, they grow, they develop their skills, they work harder, they work outside of practice, they work outside of the program. And so what ends up happening is you learn that there's always a way. There's always a way. Where if you didn't play sports, that doesn't mean you're no shame on you for not playing sports, but you gotta figure that out in the workforce to find a way. And so in some respects, when you've had the opportunity to play sports, you have a head start in certain ways over the person that didn't, just from the competitive nature, from the hey, you deal with a lot of adversity in sports. One of the things we talked about was your two mountaintops. What was your valley experience as an athlete? What was that moment where, like, man, I don't know if I can do this anymore?
So my junior year in college, I remember just being in a slump. And I can't pinpoint the slump, but I remember being in a slump and not performing as well and going from starting to not starting a few games. And that was hard. I had a conversation with a former coach who really helped me through that really tough period of time. So that was really hard for me. When you're not performing at the level that you know you can, and then how do you get out of that? We need mentors, we need to put in more work, and other times we actually need to slow down and pay attention to what's going on around us because our role isn't always the same on a team and it needs to shift.
Did you lose your confidence when you got demoted?
I did. I
Okay.
did.
Did you lose your confidence before you got demoted? And then that was the reason you weren't showing up the same? I mean, was it because for most athletes, it's confidence. I mean, confidence
Hmm.
fluctuates. Okay. When you're shooting a basketball and it feels like you're shooting in the ocean, every shot goes in. You shoot a bad shot, you shoot off balance, doesn't matter. It bounces. There was one in the men's final game where a guy shot a three off the board. And he wasn't trying to shoot, he was trying to shoot a normal shot. And he's running down the court and the camera got him and he's going like, I don't know what happened, but I just made it. It's like you have those moments, but you also have those moments where no matter what you do, it doesn't seem to work. So what is your perspective on confidence? How do you build it? And how does it tear people down?
Oh, I love this question. So, how do you build it? There are three parts to confidence that I've come to understand. One is learning. There are times like we just need to learn something new. Maybe we need to learn a new technique, or maybe we need to learn how to deal or have that conversation with our coach. When I lacked confidence, it's because I had a gap from where I was and then what I actually knew. So there's the learning piece, there's the growing. There's some like getting better that takes place, and that's the painful part, and then giving. So I've always felt more confident when I was helping someone else because regardless of where you are, you know something that's valuable. And Craig, this part is really important to me. Like you can lack confidence because of how you performed, but that doesn't have to transfer into every other part of your life because you're not only an athlete, you're also a sister, a daughter, a mother. Like there are all these other parts to who you are. And one of the challenges that I faced when I was in my slump is that lack of confidence on the court translated into other areas of my life. And I hope, and part of I'm excited about this conversation is that if you can learn something, grow, and give to others, you can help continue to stay confident in the midst of going through difficult times. And you asked the second part of that question. Can you give me that one again?
What kills confidence?
What
What
kills confidence?
what hurts confidence? So let's say sometimes it's more difficult when it's you, but when you
Hmm.
coach girls and a girl got in a slump and you just saw it, it was like a slow drip. You could see it in front of your eyes that they missed the first shot, and so they're not as confident. Then they miss the second shot. Then they miss a layup. Then they get fouled and they miss 2 free throws. And all of a sudden now they're not the same person they were 10 minutes ago
Hmm.
because they've lost their confidence. You can see it. So how do you see why do people lose their confidence from your perspective? Or why do you lose it?
Part of the reason that we lose confidence is that we don't expect to make mistakes. And so when we make a mistake, we actually tell ourselves it's the what we say to ourselves in those moments can make or break us. A coach can say something, a teammate can say something, but actually that internal self-talk can make or break us. So what I've seen for myself and the young women that I've coached is they're they will spiral when they're like, I'm a mess or I'm off all day. Like that can occur and that makes it hard. The other thing that can affect confidence is when you know you haven't done the work. So when you get your butt kicked and you get, I'm not going to curse, but when you get it handed to you, then you that affects confidence as well. And so you have to go back and put in the work. So I think some of it is getting beat impacts your confidence. Also, negative self talk impacts your confidence. And for some of the things that we can't control, okay, it could be injury impacts confidence. They're the things that we can't foresee happening.
Okay, so in my pro mindset model, I basically have 4 confidence attackers or confidence killers. One is perfection. And it's kind of
Hmm.
typical of what you were talking about with respect to mistakes. If you try to be perfect, no one's perfect. We're not even created perfectly. We're certainly not going to perform perfectly. Tiger Woods on his best day was not perfect. It doesn't matter what athlete you take. Michael Jordan, doesn't matter which sport. No one's ever perfect, right? So perfection is something that gets you in trouble. It affects your confidence. The second one is comparison. Compare yourself to someone else. Compare yourself to who you used to be. Compare yourself to a certain situation. Comparison is like a 360-degree confidence killer because when you start getting into comparison, you can always find your mind can always find something to make you feel not so good about yourself, right? And if you're 6'1", your confidence may have been attacked with respect to boys because it's like you're taller than all of them, especially when you were 12. You were taller than the teachers. You might have been the tallest person in your elementary school. My daughter's like a hair under 5'11", and she grew early. She was the tallest girl in her elementary school of all the women in the
Yeah.
school. Okay. And so comparison. The next one is people pleasing. It's that athlete that's looking for validation from the media, the fans, the coaches, her teammates, her parents, her friends, whatever. And it's like sometimes people just expect you to do what you did. So I don't pat you on the back. And so all of a sudden, maybe I'm not doing as well as I thought I was because coach is not like complimenting me. Right. And the last one is I call scoreboard watching. And it's kind of all of them. It's when you thought you would, like, let's say, for example, 35, and you thought you'd be at a certain place at 35, or it could be halftime in a game, and you're averaging 25 points a game, and you thought you would have 13 by halftime, and you only got two. It's kind of like the kid from Clayton from Florida had no points in the first half. He could have lost his confidence. He didn't lose his confidence, but he could have, because it wasn't going like how you thought it would go. And so the thing that I talk about is the concept that confidence cannot be mistaken for belief. Confidence is about what you do, and it's going to fluctuate depending on the day and the year and the activity. Even in basketball, you might be really good at blocking shots, but maybe not have great handles. You
Hmm.
might be really good at catching the ball, but not good at hitting the open person. But your belief has to be 100%. And
I
belief
love
to
that.
me is synonymous with love. You have to love yourself 100% every single day. You've got to look in the mirror every single day and go, I am beautiful. I am worthy. And it's a choice
It
where
is.
you could show up for work and not feel real confident about something, and that's okay. But it's not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of how confident you are in what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Thoughts on
I
that?
love I love that. I love the distinction between belief and confidence. Because confidence is associated with the activity that you're doing in that moment versus who I am as a person and how I feel I show up in the world. Absolutely love that, Craig. Love it. It makes so much sense.
Well, in working with professional athletes for 30 years, it's like, you have to remind these guys sometimes football is what you do. It's not
Hmm.
who you are. The problem is mom, dad, friends, brothers and sisters, and everybody else, they walk into a restaurant and they're 6'5" and they weigh 280 and they look like Greek god, and they can't hide. So somebody comes over to them and says, hey, I know I should know you. You got to play for so and so. Yeah. Well, can I get your autograph? So even when they want to, like, disappear, they can't disappear. And so it's like, the bottom line is athletes have identity attacks almost more than anybody else, and especially the ones that look a certain way. Think about the guy that, or the girl, looks incredibly athletic, tall, long, muscles in the right places, all that stuff, and doesn't play sports.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You meet people who are in that and they always say, I'm just so tired of people asking. Like, no, I didn't play basketball. No, I didn't play volleyball. No, I didn't play anything. I like to read books. And then people have the audacity to say, well, you wasted your height. It's like, hold on, wait. What do you mean? I didn't actually like that thing. But that is really hard because you can't hide. As a 6'1" woman who will wear heels all the time, always ask, did you play? I just happened to play. But it is hard when you want to disassociate from that part of your identity or it's not as relevant in whatever you're doing in that moment.
All right, let's talk about your height for a second.
Okay,
Today, you wear high heels.
I do.
Okay. So, what does that say to you, the people in the office? What does that say to your prospects and clients and people like that? The fact that you're 6'1" and now you're like 6'3", 6'4" when you're wearing heels.
Well, I work remote, so we all look the same. Right? However, when I'm out in the world, this was a new conscious decision for me because I used to try to shrink. I didn't want to be even taller. And I realized a few years ago, ironically, that I can't hide anyway. So I may as well just show up in the fullness of who I am. But I can't hide. And people always regularly ask, or they'll like look up. And I lived in Medellin, Colombia for a few years. And in South America, I mean, most of the people were exponentially shorter than me. So still got a lot of stairs, but it's okay. It's what it is. You can't change it. So I just embrace it.
I think one of the best things we can all do is take the gifts and talents that we have and shine a light on it and be proud, because God created you to be 6'1" for a reason. And he didn't want you to be 5'8", which is still tall. And so what happens to people that are shy away from their gifts. They don't look. People are not attracted to them. People feel empathetic for them. Where if you show up at a nightclub, or you show up at the grocery store, or you show up at a business meeting and you're 6'4", people go, "This girl's got something going on," right?
100%.
So one of the things that happens is how you treat your gift influences how people respond to you.
That's so good. So good and so true. And I want to say that I never wanted to play basketball. I think this is really important. I was 6'1" at 12, and someone saw me and said, "We need you on our team." I was coming out of Blockbuster Video. You remember. Some people won't know Blockbuster, but we know Blockbuster. It was a Friday night, like it was our weekly tradition as a family. And there was a guy who was the coach, Coach Luther Coyle. And he said, "Can you come play on our team?" And Craig, what I didn't mention before that I think is really important, I wasn't competitive. God didn't make me a competitive soul. I'm the person that looks at the butterflies and the squirrels, right? That's my heart space. And I have older brothers, and I was put on this team with really competitive girls who were winners. They were doing all of the amazing things. And playing with them and having older brothers forced me to be competitive. And my soul, like, I needed that. And I needed this body and that competitive environment to become who I am, because it wouldn't have happened otherwise. So when you embrace your gifts, other people can see things in you that you can't see within yourself, and they can see possibilities for you based on the gifts that you have, and things can turn out in ways that you can't imagine if you just stay with it. Because I wanted to quit a lot of times because I didn't want to get elbowed and punched. You get better, and you end up growing and becoming beyond what you could imagine because of it.
Okay, put a statement out there for women. Women, because of how they're objectified by men and how in advertising, you got to look a certain way, your hair's got to be a certain way, you got to do, think about all the hours, all the sunsets and sunrises have gone by where women spend all this time in front of a mirror putting on makeup. And dudes just jump out of the shower, throw on their clothes and jump in their car and go where they're going. It's like, so talk about this concept of women power, of not having to be what society tells you you're supposed to be.
This is going to be controversial, and I know it, but I never wore makeup before a year ago. Like, I put it on every day now, and I was very much just show up and be who you are. Just show up however you want to show up. That's cool, except you're going to be treated differently when you look differently. It's the world that we live in. Like, lookism is real. So I worked with some friends and I figured out the clothes that work best for my body. I did all of the work. I figured out how to do my makeup in a way that makes me feel confident and comfortable. I wanted to show up and have an executive presence. I wanted to show up and have people really and command the spaces that I'm in because of the work that I do and because of where I'm going. So I believe, to answer your question, that decide what you want and show up as whatever you need to show up as to get what you want in a way that still honors and respects who you are. So I'm not saying change who you are, but we have seen all of these young women with the NIL deals show up on Good Morning America today, who won the national title. They're done up, and there's a reason for that. So you can do what you want, but understand you're going to get perceived in a certain way. And if you don't, I mean, it's your choice, but you may have more opportunities if
Okay,
you
so
look in a way
what
that's
into
desired.
that, and way I absorb that is that if you have a dream and you want to be on the path to accomplishing that dream, whatever that is, all aspects of your life have to be in alignment. And how you show up and what you wear, and whether it's wearing on your body or wearing on your face, it's all the same. It's the words we use. It's how we respond to people. Everything needs to be in alignment. And if it's not in alignment, that goal's not going to happen. And so I get that. But I also think that there's a balance.
There is.
There's a balance. And I think we all need to have the freedom to be who we were created to be and not necessarily conform to society's standards unless it serves our goal.
Yes. And Craig, there's our public life and our private life. And I think it's important to say, okay, in these spaces, here's how I show up because it makes the most sense for these spaces. And in other spaces, here's how I show up. So it may be a Saturday morning. I'm not going to do all this because I'm sitting on the couch or I'm just going to the gym. But if I'm coming on a podcast or if I have a business meeting, then I'm going to up level. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It's understanding the game that you're playing when you're playing it and showing up appropriately for that game. I think we can get into the whole just be whatever and do whatever and look however, when in fact, that's not always the best approach either.
Well, this topic would be really wonderful for ladies that are wanting to maximize their NIL because they have to be in alignment with what companies want, what organizations want, what's going to attract the most money. Because at the end of the day, if all you have to do is look a little bit differently, wear different clothes, but wear your hair differently, and it's going to hit your bank account, I'd do it.
Makes sense. And it's only for that moment, for those moments to find, and there will be others that align. No, I'm with you 100%. 100%.
Okay. So let's talk about what you do now. What's the difference, like the people that you serve? What's the difference between the winners and losers? What's the difference between the, high achievers and the ones that are just good, the great good people?
The high achievers go after it. They're the ones sending pitches. They're the one contacting people about opportunities. They're listening to their customers, figuring out what their needs are, and actually creating products and services. And then they're promoting their products and services. And so for a lot of people who are speakers, they sit back and wait for people to contact them. But the people who work with us as Speaker Hub, they go after the opportunities because we have a database of opportunities. And so they're the ones sending pitches and making the contacts and growing their business and not waiting for people to come to them. The winners go after it.
Okay. Well, we're going after it right now.
Yes, yes.
What's one thing you wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about that you would love to share? I know you got a new book coming out.
Yes, yes. Keep bouncing forward. How to stay confident when life knocks you off your game, because that's going to happen. That's inevitable. And that book's, we can talk about, this is the perfect segue because that book is the sequel to my first book, The Game Changing Assist, 6 Simple Ways to Choose Success. So in that book, I presented this framework for how to choose success for your life. And that was a decade ago. And Craig, the last decade, life has knocked me off my game. And there are some young women who I've been meeting with who told me we need to know like how to overcome these challenges. So this book, Keep Bouncing Forward, is all about going in the midst of challenges and how do you learn, grow, and give using that framework. So really excited, really excited about that because the past decade has been a lot of unexpected things from my parents having health issues. They're 85 and 83. As I mentioned, I'm in St. Louis right now visiting them for this recording. Did not foresee a lot of things that have occurred. So I want to be able to help people through those.
What was the
challenges.
genesis or the inspiration for Keep Bouncing Forward? Like what adversity did you face? What unexpected curveball did you have that you're like personally that you're like, I've got to fight through this. This is not something I signed up for. This is not something I expected. This is not even fair.
Yeah.
And you had to work your way through it to get to a place where now you want to share with people so they can learn what you learned.
There are probably 3 big things that occurred. The first big thing that occurred is my mom having a heart attack and a triple bypass. That just really rocked us. Thankfully, she's better now, but it's how do you ask for help? As in coming from someone who is an athlete and feeling tough, like I can do it all myself or I can figure it out. I've had to ask for help way more in this last decade because you just can't go at it alone. And so part of the learning process is learning how to ask for help and that you really need people. And we can know it at the high level. Yes, of course I need people, but how do you humble yourself to say, I can't do this alone? So mom's health, dad's health. Dad has had a stroke and cancer multiple times, like since the publishing of that first book. And I jumped in and did way more than I had the capacity to do, which ultimately broke me down. And I had to have some really hard conversations with family around what wasn't possible. And then the third thing was launching a business. Like that is hard work. I work at Speaker Hub now, but before then I launched a PR agency. Clients come and go. And what I learned, Craig, is that I was good at operations. I figured out the workflow, but you actually need sales and marketing. And without sales, you don't have a business. And the way that I ended up at Speaker Hub is a really good friend of mine said, how about you come and bring your team? I built a team and everything, right? I built a great team for this agency. He said, bring your team. I'm great at sales and marketing. You're great at management and operations. And we're going to serve people all over the world together. And I was like, great. Now I'm on a team. So yeah, those are the big things. Parents' health, being an entrepreneur. Those are big things that really changed the course of where I am the past decade.
Maybe in the past decade or maybe in the past year, what's the biggest revelation you've experienced about yourself? Something that you didn't even know.
Past decade, when I moved to Medellin, Colombia for 2.5 years, greatest time, that it's okay to slow down, that you don't always have to push. I slowed down more. That's where I launched the agency. I tested things. I tried, ultimately landed at Speaker Hub from building a team. Slowing down is actually the cheat code. And coming from the world of sport and athletics, you think the cheat code is continue to work harder. But no, you have to slow down and evaluate what is going on. You have to learn that there's a better cadence, especially when you get thrown those curveballs like family illness and things not working out. You can't just keep going. So slowing down. That's what I've learned.
What is the biggest, take us to a moment where you slowed down. When you say it's the cheat code, and I totally understand that slowing down allows you to think potentially more clearly, have a different perspective. You're not stressed out. What is the vibration of slowing down that causes you to actually speed up? So what help somebody out there is going, no, I can't slow down. I can't slow down. I'm too busy. I got too many things going on. Convince them why they need to slow down.
Slowing down allows you to see and think clearer because it gives you time to process all that you have going on. So, for example, when I slowed down and I thought about and I was able to reflect on everything that happened with my parents, I saw how I contributed to everyone thinking I could handle things that I really couldn't handle because I didn't slow down. I was able to see how I could have communicated better. So slowing down is really a gift to yourself. It could be 20 minutes in the morning or 20 minutes at night, but it's assessing is where I am exactly where I want to be and what things do I need to stop in order to focus on those few things that are going to help me get closer to being the person, not even getting the thing, Craig. It's about being the person that you actually want to be and show up as using your greatest gifts. So I learned to communicate better from slowing down, much healthier from slowing down. And I'm actually a better friend, a better daughter, all of those things for my ability to just step back. So hopefully if you're listening,
I agree with all of
on
that.
ways.
And I would also I would add a couple things if I may. One is
Absolutely.
that when you slow down, you have more awareness because when you're going and going and going, you're a firefighter, you're putting out different fires all the time and you don't have time to really think about what you're thinking about. So meta in front of any word, like meta mindset, means that you're aware that you have a mindset, right? Meta problem means that you have awareness that you got this issue. Where when you're going, 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 you're just trying to fix the issue. And then you have more issues and you can't try to fix those. And it's exhausting. It's like being on a treadmill. You don't get off the treadmill. So I think slowing down helps you eventually speed up.
There's this awesome book, X is Easier Than 2X by
Mm-hmm.
Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And it basically talks about cutting out things so that you can focus on the things that matter most. That's the clip notes of the book. And X is Easier Than 2X. And so I read that book at a time when I was slowing down and it was really helpful in reframing my thought process around the things that I had.
I have a friend who happens to live in St. Louis, very successful, and I coach him and he coaches me. And he talks about the concept that if you want to catch big fish, if you want to have a bigger dream, you have to you have to have a net with bigger holes. Because if
Mm,
you have a net with bigger holes, a lot of the little stuff and the medium stuff won't stay in the net. And it effectively is that
good.
10x is easier or better than 2x. It's the same concept
Mhm.
that you're only going to be focused on the big rocks, the big things you're really put on this planet to do, because all the things that distract you and keep you busy, you're not going to do them. You don't have
Yeah.
time for them. They're not a priority anymore. And I think I'm guilty of this too, as anybody. Sometimes you want to feel like you accomplished something, so you get the little things done before you tackle the big things, and then there's not enough time for the big things.
Like that's a good point because it's a process and it's you have to constantly do it. Like every time the season changes, it's a really great cadence. It's just to slow down a little and reflect on what you're doing to see if it's in alignment.
Absolutely. Well, Angela, I want to thank you for joining me today on Pro Mindset. I want to thank you for your insights, your candor, your energy. You look beautiful. So obviously
Thank
you got
you.
that down. And I want to wish you nothing but the best in your career and in your personal life as well.
Thank you so much, Craig. I appreciate it. I wish you the best as well, and I'm sure we'll stay in touch. This has been great.
Thank you. Hey, it's Craig Doman, the host of Pro Mindset Podcast. I want to thank you for listening or watching today's show. And you can catch us every week on the normal social media platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all the listening podcast platforms. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And more importantly, I hope you gained a pro mindset insight. Please be sure to rate and review Pro Mindset Podcast. And I look forward to catching up with you on our next show.